So I was gonna save this for the season finale of Attack on Titan Season 4 Part 2, but I guess I'll go ahead and do it now. So this review will double as a review for not only Attack on Titan Season 4 Part 2 Episode 4, but also my review on Mappa's adaptation of Attack on Titan so far. I'll be using this episode as my main reasoning for my review and my dislike of Mappa's adaptation, but I'll also be using other episodes to justify my arguments as well. Before I begin, I want to just put out a few disclaimers. First of all, this is not an objective thing, right? There's a difference between telling a good story, writing a good story without a bunch of plot holes that make no sense. And there's also a difference between just making art, making entertainment. What entertains you, what's entertaining to you may be, just for you, but not for me. And that's fine. I'm just saying what my opinion is. I'm saying how I feel. When I review an episode, whenever I rate an episode, I'm just saying how I feel about it. And more specifically, the adaptation, not the story, because at the end of the day, the story was already pre-written. I'm just want to know how you adapt the story to the anime. That's the entire point of an anime adaptation to me. Secondly, I have openly admitted that I am biased towards Wit. I think Wit set the standard for Attack on Titan animation in Season 1 and Season 2, and that bar is extremely high and has not been met by any other episodes afterwards, including those from Wit. But I still think Wit Season 3 had some great moments, had some great animation, had some great, pacing, direction. I think all of that was still there. Just the animation quality wasn't as good because obviously they didn't have as much time with Season 3 as they did with Season 1 and Season 2, and neither does Mappa. So I can't expect Mappa to match what Season 1 and Season 2 were able to accomplish in terms of animation quality. However, I can expect them to match what Season 3 was able to do in terms of animation quality, and I'm also able to expect them to match what Season 3 was able to do in terms of direction, and Season 1 and Season 2 as well, because direction doesn't really necessarily take time. It just takes skill, it takes understanding, it takes understanding of what's going on, what's important, and what isn't. And that is where Wit excels greatly beyond Mappa. When I'm complaining, I'm not necessarily complaining about the animation, though I do think the animation isn't that great, and sometimes with Mappa, sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. I'm mostly complaining about the way they handle certain situations, important moments in the characters, conveying that information to the audience, and doing it in a believable way that makes sense. That's mostly my biggest concern with Mappa. It's not so much the animation. And lastly, the last disclaimer I want to go over is that I'm just a Mappa hater, and anything that Mappa releases, I'll hate it anyways. Just makes no sense. I do not hate Mappa or any other animation studio. I don't care that much. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I am not a Mappa hater regardless of what you may think, and I can prove it. I think that Attack on Titan Season 4 Episode 7, the attack on Marley, was a very good episode. I think that was one of the best Attack on Titan episodes. I'd rate it up there in a 7 or an 8, and I think it was Mappa's best work to date. The episode was well paced, well choreographed, animation was pretty good, music was solid, direction was solid, the ending was great. No problem with that episode. Every single moment of the episode, I was entertained, and I had a great time with it. That's a Mappa episode. I said I liked it. So therefore, if I was a Mappa hater, I would hate every single thing that Mappa released, regardless if I thought it was good or not. I'd hate it anyways. I wouldn't be able to like anything that Mappa released. But I just told you I liked that entire episode. I also like Season 4, Part 2, Episode 3. I thought that episode was all right. The first half was pretty solid. It was the second half that ruined it for me, but I thought the first half was pretty excellent, and I would have gave that episode probably their best of all time if the second half hadn't have flopped so hard, in my opinion. And the last thing I want to go over is that, People say that I hate this story not because of Mappa, but because of the ending. I don't like the ending, so therefore I don't like the show. Again, it makes no sense. When I watched Attack on Titan Season 3, I knew everything that was going to happen. I knew every single thing that was going to happen. And I still enjoyed it. So that's not it. And then Season 4, Part 1, that Mappa created, I didn't like it for the most part. And I didn't know what the story was going to be. I had no clue what was going to happen at the ending. I knew it was going to happen in the animation itself, but the ending wasn't out yet. And yet I still did not like Mappa's adaptation. So there you go. Those are two factual examples of me being consistent throughout the time. So you can't say it's because I don't like the ending. You can't say it's because I hate Mappa. It's because it's my opinion, and I will stand on that until the end of time. This is my opinion about Mappa's adaptation, and there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do to change that. So if you don't like my opinion, that's fine. You disagree with my opinion? That's fine. But don't belittle my opinion by telling me that I'm some type of petty little fuck who would make up an opinion over something like that. Something so insignificant, something so petty. No, I'm not like that. I don't blame Mappa because Attack on Titan's ending is trash. And I don't blame Mappa because I don't hate Mappa because they're not making a good version of Attack on Titan in my eyes. I'm just criticizing the final product, and that's the last time I'm going to talk about that. All right, so now that we've gotten those disclaimers out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the review of the episode. And after we're done reviewing the episode, I'll start talking about Mappa. The episode begins with a bird spinning in circles flying above a city or town or whatever. And we start off right away with Mappa's non-attention to detail, Mappa's non-effort. This bird looks completely unnatural, doesn't look real, doesn't look believable. It flaps its wings a total of one time. For what reason is this here? What reason? When you compare this bird, the effects of the bird to any other bird in any episode of Attack on Titan that's not by Mappa, you will see a completely different animation style. It's just the introduction, I understand that, but that's the level of quality that I am talking about when I talk about Mappa's adaptation. So let's continue. We see this baby raise its hand into the air, see its eyes crawling, and it's clearly Eren as Grisha comes to pick up Eren and give him a little hug or a little hold as he's crying. Nothing wrong with any of this. This is all fine. And then we see Eren and Zeke. Now, we know as an audience who's paying attention that Eren and Zeke are traveling through paths, visiting Grisha's memories, in order for Zeke to try to convince Eren that Grisha was an asshole who brainwashed him, and so that Eren would willingly be on Zeke's side and change his mind. But we know that Grisha wasn't that type of a person, and Zeke is going to learn that while we go through these memories. I have no problem with that. Of course, that's in the manga. The problem that I have is the manga made it vividly clear that we were actually going through memories, and the way the manga did that was by using black panels. The black panels gave anyone who was reading an indication that this section of the story was in some ways different than any other section of the story, and gave off a different type of vibe than any other section of the story. That was a great idea by whoever came up with it, whether it was Isayama or his editors, to give off that those black backgrounds. I think that they worked well. Now, obviously, Mappa is not creating a manga; they're creating an anime, so they don't have the ability to have black panel backgrounds in their anime. I understand that, but there are ways that they could have done something to identify that Eren and Zeke aren't really there. They're not supposed to be there. This is not supposed to be just a regular scene. Now, if I took a screenshot from this episode and uploaded it anywhere, you had no idea what episode it was from, you'd have no idea that these guys were in past right now. You would think they were in the episode. Now, how could they have done that, since I like to talk a lot of shit? Well, there's a lot of ways they could have done it. Actually, the limitations, the possibilities are limitless when you're animating. They could have given Zeke and Aaron a highlight. They could have had them fade a little bit, have them lower opacity. They could have had a black aura around the screen, like a black oval. They could have had it. They could the edges of the screen could have been black. They could have had Aaron and Zeke be glowing. They could have had the world itself faded a bit. The world itself a different color, black and white. There's a lot of things they could have done, really. Like I'm just this is stuff I'm just coming off on the top of my head. But if I was actually like working on a production, I would definitely take my time to come up with a way that looks the most visually appealing while also giving off that information. But I mean, I'm not saying it's something that's easy to do, but it's definitely something they could have done. They could have done anything other than just draw it. That's literally all they did, was just draw it. Just to say that is a good adaptation, I just don't understand. I just don't understand how you think that is good. Is it acceptable? Is it serviceable? Does it get the job done? For sure, absolutely. But is it good? Does it add anything? No. If anything, it takes away. And that's my problem with Mappa. But let's keep going. Then the episode goes from scene to scene, moment to moment in Grisha's life as the two brothers watch it take place. And Aaron tries to pretend to convince Zeke that he's changed his mind, but he really hasn't changed it, and that's that. There's really nothing wrong with any of this stuff. It gets the job done. I like some of the moments here with Hannes. The art looks solid. It's very fast and quick. I mean, like I said, it gets the job done. And then we get to the scene where Grisha supposedly enters the cave to see the founding titan, to retrieve the founding titan the first time. And this is the moment where the brothers are supposed to be shocked. They didn't think he'd come at this moment. This is strange. Why is he here so soon? You know? He shouldn't be here so soon. When Grisha finally decides to close it and leave, we don't even see that. It doesn't get animated. We just see him walk away. Why? I just don't understand. Why do you not want to animate these things? Why are we showing Zeke's face to cover up animating that? Just why? Why not have those moments animated? Does it add anything to the story? No. Does it take away from the episode? No. But it does add something. It does make it seem more real, that decision that Grisha decided not to go, rather than just seeing him walk out. I could ask, well, why did he just leave? You know? Why did he just leave? Obviously, that's answered in the next scene when he hugs Aaron. But before then, why did he just leave like that? You know, I don't see any reasoning behind it. He just literally walks out. He makes a weird face and walks out. It's like, I don't know, man. I just feel like that should have been that those are things that Mappa just drops the ball on, and that it seems to me like it's more of cutting corners than anything. So then we get the scene where Grisha supposedly sees Zeke and comes to the realization that it was just a dream or not real, and that's that. And then Aaron changes the subject, and then we go into the opening. My favorite part of every single episode of Attack on Titan is this opening. Again, I think it's my favorite opening of all Attack on Titan, and Mappa made it. So yeah, clearly I hate Mappa. So after the opening, Zeke admits that he realizes that Grisha never brainwashed Aaron. So then he changes his questioning from why were you brainwashed, or why are you brainwashed, or when will you leave your brainwashing, to well, why'd you betray me if you're not brainwashed? What is it what are you doing? Like, why are you fighting? What are you fighting for? You know, why do you oppose to end the conflict? Eren then has a flashback of his baby form being held by Grisha. And to me, this is the death of AoE. I don't believe AoE is going to happen because not only this image is here, but also its placement. It clearly shows that they are trying to foreshadow what happens in the end. And I just don't think that this is good for any sort of AoE. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave the AoE camp now, fellas. It was nice. It was a nice ride, but I'm out. But then we cut to the moment where Eren and Zeke arrive at Grisha's memory, where Grisha arrives to see that Eren, as a child, had killed Mikasa's kidnappers. This scene was very important in the manga as it exposes Eren's psyche. It explains why Eren decides to always go for violence over peace. He would even oppose his own father to go towards violence over peace, if that violence is in self-defense. That's basically Eren's character. But the major point in Eren's character, and the point in Eren's character that Mappa just doesn't seem to understand, is that while Eren is like that, when it comes to violence, he is very, very passionate about it when it comes to defending those who would get in his way, who would harm him. He's extremely passionate about it, and he's always been that way, as Eren explains in this episode. Now, there's a reason why Isayama chose to show Eren's facial expression while he was arguing with Grisha. He was using it to show that while Eren was a child, he was always a very passionate defender and attacker for if need be. That is why when Grisha is trying to scold him, he is fighting back against that scolding with more passion than Grisha is delivering the scolding. He is saying that Grisha is wrong for not wanting to attack people who have done them wrong or who are not worth living. And people argue that, well, we already saw this argument. So what? We already saw a lot of this stuff. That doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be highlighted. Why do you think Isayama chose to highlight things that we already saw in these moments? There are reasons for these things to be highlighted. And for Mappa to just ignore them shows they just don't understand. After this scene, Zeke explains that he has the power of the founder and he can do whatever he wants whenever, but he tells Eren that he's staying around and trying to convince Eren because he doesn't want to leave him and he wants to be there for his little brother. Now, they don't even spend maybe 2 seconds going over this scene, which I don't understand why they don't do that. It seems like a very big revelation. It seems like something that would be very important. Zeke does not need Eren. He does not need to be going through all of this, but he's choosing to do so because he wants to help Eren. That's a pretty big revelation. I would think that you'd spend more than like maybe 2 seconds on it, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like if you blinked, you would have missed that. Then we get to the moment where Grisha pulls out the key, then looks at Eren afterwards. And I just don't understand this moment at all. I don't know why they directed it this way. It's just confusing. In the manga, Grisha looks at the key and then looks forward, and then you see Eren looking at supposedly Grisha, but we don't see them make eye contact. We have no idea that Grisha is looking directly at Eren. I have no idea why this is here. I have no idea why Grisha looking at Eren and making this face is here. It does not make any sense to me. I don't get it. Now, this scene is actually new. It's not in the manga, and it's actually a very good addition, having Eren and his mother and Mikasa and his dad all hanging out like they did in the first episode of the original anime release. I think it's a very good callback. Very nice. Very, very nice. It wasn't in the manga at all. They just skipped to the conversation. So I do like this addition. This was a good job for Mappa to add this. They also decided to add Zeke's reaction to this. I'm not sure why Zeke is so surprised about this, but I guess. But this is where they mess up. They were doing good, in my opinion, but this is where they messed the scene up. In the manga, Eren was behind Grisha while his younger self was telling Grisha why he wanted to go outside, and you could see Grisha's face get more and more and more concerned about what he was saying as Eren's face got more and more determined. In the anime, Eren is in the front of Grisha, staring at his old self instead of Grisha, as Grisha makes the same expression, not showing any change. As he finally walks to the door, reveals the key to younger Eren, and makes an eye-to-eye contact with Eren for supposed to be the first time, but he had already done this a few moments earlier when he first got the key, which takes away the shock of this moment because we already saw him do that before. And then we get to the scene where he finally confronts Frida for the founder. And this scene is just directed weird because it goes straight to commercials. Not quite sure why they wouldn't put the commercials before he entered the cave. That would have been a nice cliffhanger, but I digress. Frida tells Grisha that they should just die. Grisha makes his plea on why they shouldn't just die. And Zeke and Eren watch the entire conversation take place while Eren looks extremely pissed off. After this, Grisha reveals that the Attack Titan can see into the future, and this is a pretty big reveal for this scene. It's given out pretty much the same way in the manga as it is in the anime, but it's pretty interesting that Mappa decided to blur out Eren in this scene, whereas in the manga decided to blur out Grisha, further emphasizing that Eren was in control of the situation rather than Grisha, which I think is pretty good foreshadowing, but it's not present here in the anime. Now, of course, Grisha just can't bring himself to kill children because that's what he's going to have to do in order to retrieve the founder, because there are children there. And when Grisha realizes this, he drops his knife before stabbing himself and then falls to the ground. Now, in the manga, it wasn't animated that he fell to the ground. They instead used the blade as an sort of extension of himself, so you would see the blade as him falling to the ground. The anime does the same thing. I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with that. I think actually having him fall to the ground in the anime would have been a nice addition, so considering it can actually be animated, but I digress. As Grisha sits on the floor and says that he can't do it, this is the most important moment of the chapter. This is the moment where Eren reveals that he actually does have influence over past events. He did have influence over Grisha's actions, and he had something to do with the reason why Grisha killed the Reese family, and potentially much more things to come in the series. Why a lot of things happened and how Grisha was able to do certain things, and it's a very important moment. It should be handled very well, and I was very eager to see how they would put this reveal on the big screen. In the manga, it was done very well. It starts off by showing that maybe Eren is just talking to Grisha on his own, but in the anime, it makes it very, very clear that Grisha is actually listening to Eren. He actually hears him. He actually hears his words. You can see his eyes flare up when he speaks. You can hear him move when he grabs him. There is no room for interpretation here. Whereas in the manga, it was a lot more subtle. In the manga, you could have come to the conclusion that maybe Grisha just happened to get up on his own while Eren was sitting right next to him, and Eren was just speaking at the same exact time as a sort of coincidence kind of thing. But the anime takes away all that nuance and completely removes it and makes it where it was Eren who did it, and there's literally no way you can argue against it, because Grisha's facial reactions and faces that he makes when Eren speaks are just way too coincidental in order for it to be some sort of coincidence. I understand that this is animation, and at the end of the day, there's only so much they can do, but I feel like they could have done a better job with this. The reveal itself just didn't really feel all that built up to me. It only happens in a few seconds, I feel like that should have taken up a longer amount of time. That whole entire moment should have taken at least 60 seconds of screen time at the least. And I'm not quite sure why they just sped past it so quickly. I really was disappointed with the way they handled this moment. Now we get the next moment where Grisha gets done killing everyone and he goes to scream looking for Eren, and this moment was actually very well done. I was actually surprised to see this. It was quick, it was paced well, had nice animation. There you could really feel Grisha's pain, especially when Zeke arrives and Grisha finally gives Zeke what he always wanted, love and embracement from his father. I thought this was excellent and easily the best part of the episode for me personally. If the entire episode had this level of direction, pacing, care, I would have definitely loved it. But this part of the episode feels like it's just from something else. It's so good compared to what I just got done watching. I can't even explain it. I especially love the moment where the music flares up while Grisha's hugging Zeke until Zeke finally releases his tear and the music swells down. I thought it was a great touch. Like I said, I really do love this scene. It shows that Mappa can make a scene that is powerful and strong with just two characters talking, which is something that I've always felt that they were lacking in Attack on Titan, and they proved to me in this scene that they can do it. I just wish they do it a little bit more often. Maybe it's because there aren't as many still faces. There's a lot of animations, a lot of movement. You can really feel the weight of the hug. You can feel the pain of the moment, the tears. All of it is just great. Like, I can't praise this moment any better than what I'm praising it now. It reminds me of how good the moment was when Zeke first was reborn in the first episode. It's just really good, and I wish more Mappa was like this. And after that, Zeke is transported back into past and the episode ends. So overall, while this episode was nothing special, it was also nothing really terrible. It just got the job done, aside from that last scene I thought was really good. But that's not really a good example of an adaptation to me. I don't think an adaptation should just get the job done. I think an adaptation should elevate. I think an adaptation should add, like the last scene did. I think the adaptation should make me feel something more than what I felt when I watched or read a manga. And that's just how I feel, because Attack on Titan has always been doing that for me ever since its release until season 4 came around, and I'm just disappointed by that. The next example I want to go over is Attack on Titan Season 4, Declaration of War. The adaptation of Declaration of War is the reason why I gave up on Mappa. It's the moment that they proved to me that they do not understand the story of Attack on Titan, and again, I don't blame them for that, but facts are facts. Now, it isn't that the adaptation is wrong or anything. They pretty much copy the manga panel for panel as they usually do. The problem with that is if you copy something panel for panel, you don't know what panel to hold on and for how long, how many seconds this panel should be on the screen versus another panel. If you understand the story, you do know. So here's a perfect example. We are given a conversation between Reiner and Eren, and the conversation goes pretty much how you think it'd go if you read the manga. But if you pay attention to some things, you may be wondering why Mappa made the decisions that they made when it comes to this conversation, especially this one part that I'm about to explain. So everything up until this point of the chapter has shown that Eren has come to Marley in order to attack in some way, shape, or form. We don't know how he's planning on doing it yet, but we know that he's planning to attack. And this is very important, and the manga does give off this vibe, just like the anime does, that Eren is planning to attack. And he's doing it while listening to Willy Tybur's speech. Now the question is, why? Why would Eren want to listen to this speech? Well, before he made this decision, he wanted to hear what Willie had to say. He wanted to hear what the world's answer would be to the destruction of parody. He wanted one final chance to change the course of the future. How do we know this? Well, when Willie says, "I do not wish to die, and that is because I have already been born into this world," Eren pauses. His eyes flash. This is not only because Willie has used his famous catchphrase, which shows the similarities between the two, but it also shows that perhaps there is hope. Perhaps there is a possibility that parody and the rest of the world can find peaceful understanding because they can relate to one another, and perhaps Willie will be the one to cast the first stone. Perhaps Willie will be the one to start off the peace talks. Perhaps he will say that fighting is not the answer because he does not wish to die. Eren knows that Willie knows that he is there, and Willie knows that Eren knows that he is there. And Willie is under the full impression that he will be killed, which is why he is crying, and Eren understands that. So when Willie states that he does not wish to die, he is literally telling Eren that he does not wish to die because he was born into this world. And Eren is reacting to this. Immediately afterwards, Willie doubles down and says even though he doesn't wish to die, we still gotta kill those Eldians. To which Eren has a solemn face of acceptance. And as the world cheers and cries and claps for what he has said, he closes his eyes in sorrow. This shows so much about his character in this chapter. This shows that not only does he not want to do what he is doing, he wishes there was another way, but he accepts that there isn't. You get all of that without Eren saying one single word. Now, how does Mappa adapt this?
ですが、私は死にたくありません。それは私がこの世に生まれてきてしまったからです。我々は国も人種も異なる者同士です。しかし、強大な敵を前にした今こそ一つになる時なのです。だから今、死にたくない者は力を貸してほしい。どうか一緒に未来を生きてほしい。
For some reason, they placed Gabby in her scene here, which I don't understand why they did that. That wasn't in the manga. It immediately goes from Willie to Eren in order to explain to the audience that he is directly speaking to Eren, but I digress on that part. But if you noticed, Eren opened his eyes. Honestly, do you really think that this is the same as the manga? Do you really think that the manga was giving off the same type of information to us as this? And then when Eren accepts Willie's declaration and the reality of the situation, we get this. This doesn't even look like the same face, the same emotion. If you look closely, Eren's actually smiling here. He's not supposed to be smiling. It's not held on for a second, for a moment. If you blink, you would miss it. This is supposed to be an important moment in Eren's character, and it's just glanced over, copy pasted, and it just moves on as if it wasn't even important. It's more important showing the soldiers creeping in than this. Once again, Mappa does not understand Attack on Titan. And I'll even compare it to Attack on Titan Season 3 Part 2, which has pretty much the same amount of time to develop an episode or a season as they had, and they just did it a lot better in that season. The pacing for the conversations between the characters, the action, the drama, it was all there. And while there weren't as many changes to the manga as there were in previous seasons and this season, it still felt like Attack on Titan. The animation still felt great. There were some times I didn't like the CGI Colossal Titan, but other than that, I thought the season was excellent. And the dialogue heavy scenes weren't boring. They felt like they had a lot of weight, a lot of impact, a lot of emotional resonance. Grisha and the Owl's conversation, for an example, or Aaron's argument with Levi on who should be revived between Erwin and Armin. To me, this is just more entertaining, and it feels a lot more impactful to me. I enjoy it a lot more. I have a much better time watching it, even though I know what was going to happen when I watched it, and even though I know the ending, I still think that these are great episodes. They are directed great, they are animated great, they have more animation in them, they have more color, they have more flair, they have more emotion, they have more drama, they have more weight, they have more of everything that I want from Attack on Titan than anything that I have seen in Mappa's adaptation of Attack on Titan. That is my opinion. It's not going to change. I'm going to stand on it. And if you don't like it, you don't have to watch it. But thanks for watching. Have a great day.